All right. Welcome. Welcome, Sergey and Didi. How is connection, voice, audio, all that? We'll get started with the chanting. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Atitang nang vagameya napatikang kaya nagatang yadatitang pahinang tang apatang cha nagatang pachupanang cha yodammang tatta tatta vipassati asamhirang asangkupang tang viddamahu bruhaye ajeva kitchang atapang kojanya maranang suve nahi no sangarang tena mahasanena machuna evang viharing ataping ahoratang atatitang tangve badde karatoti santo achikate muni. English. A single excellent night's discourse. Let not a person revive the past, or on the future build his hopes, for the past has been left behind and the future has not been reached. Instead, with insight, let him see each presently arisen state. Let him know that and be sure of it, invincibly, unshakably. Today the effort must be made, tomorrow death may come, who knows? No bargain with mortality can keep him and his hordes away. But one who dwells thus ardently, relentlessly by day, by night, it is he, the peaceful sage, has said, who has had a single excellent night. Sadhu. All right, welcome Gregory. We'll get started with our meditation in a minute or two. Welcome Jayantha. Didi, I see that question. I'll discuss that after the meditation. We can talk about that. Is this for subscribers only? No, there's nothing. There's no subscribers. I mean, technically there could be, but I'd have to be monetized, which I'm not. This channel does not have enough of all the statistics that YouTube wants to monetize the channel. And I want to, though. The reason being is because when you can monetize the channel, I can turn commercials off. So you'll never have to have commercials. When we get kind of big enough that we have all of the all of the prerequisites, we can monetize and then turn off commercials, which will be good, I think. Hello, Lorraine. Welcome. We'll get started in a little less than a minute with our meditation. While we have some time, I'll say we had our first board meeting. First Maggaseka board meeting happened this weekend on Saturday. And I, as of now, am contacting to discuss the first possible opportunity of living in Colorado. So we'll have to see if that fits, if it's feasible on their end, on my end, and all that stuff. But this is the first time that we're talking to somebody who is renting out a place. So we'll see how that goes too. Things are moving along. All right. So let's set our bodies up in whatever comfortable and stable position works for you. Close your eyes. We'll start by doing a mindful scan of the body, starting from the feet, moving up to the head. We'll place your focus and mindfulness on the feet, specifically the feeling or sensation in that part of the body, such as the feeling of the feet pressing against the floor, the cushion, the opposite leg, etc. Move up through the ankles into the calves. Through the knees, into the thighs, up through to the hips and pelvis, observing how the position of the hips and pelvis impacts your posture. When you're ready, move up the spine through the abdomen and the chest. Up to the shoulders, making sure they're hanging loosely, not scrunched up and tight. And then down through to the elbows and hands, observing how the position of the elbows and hands also impacts your posture. And finally up to the head, checking that the head is also not leaning or slouching here or there. Chin parallel to the floor. When you're done setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position, let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. Then let the breath go. From here on in, try not to manipulate or control the breath in any way. Your body has been breathing from the moment you were born and will continue to do so until the second you die. It doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to simply observe, investigate, and abide with the breath as the body breathes in and the body breathes out. Remember, as you seek to follow the breath, the mind will become bored, will run away to the past or the future, across the world, to various stories and fantasies. But after some time, it will slowly start to dawn on you that you've been taken away from the breath. At that point, fully acknowledge that you've been taken away from the breath. Try to come back to full focus and mindfulness. Then practice letting go of the distraction if it's still there by neither getting agitated and trying to push it away, nor by continuing to be infatuated and excited by it. See if you can do your best to let it go, to let it be, to give it no effort, energy, or attention. And then return to the breath. So whenever you're distracted away, acknowledge, let go, and return. Come back. Acknowledge, let go, and return. Always come back to the breath. The breath is home base. It's always there, doing its thing, ready for you to come follow towards a more calm and tranquil mind. Every once in a while, check in with the state of your mind. Is your mind becoming more calm and tranquil or not? As it does, you may begin to notice more subtle, deeper characteristics of the breath. How the breath is constantly changing, not the same from cycle to cycle. Sometimes the breath is long and deep, sometimes short and shallow. See if you can follow these more subtle, deeper characteristics of the breath. Slowly open your eyes, becoming aware of the room around you, your body's position in it, reflecting on the state of your mind before and after the meditation, and contemplating any experiences that stood out. And while you do that, I'll say hello to Chris, Obasa, and Michelle. Welcome. And welcome everybody to Dhammapalooza, the Festival of Dhamma with the Magazeka community that happens every Monday night. We did some chanting, we've done some our meditation, and now for the rest of the time period, well, that's up in the air. If you have any questions you'd like to ask me, you can put them in the chat. If you have any topics you'd like me to give a Dhamma talk on, you can put those in the chat. Or we always have a sutta. As I say, I always have a sutta in my back pocket to read. We have been reading through the Majjhima Nikaya for quite a while now. We're in the 30s. So there's always sutta to read. And you can never go wrong by reading a sutta. And we have the verses of the elder monastics as well to read through if there's nothing else going on. So I'll give time for questions or talk topics that you'd like me to give a talk on, to put those in the chat. DD already did ask a question right at the beginning, so I'll address that. Do you ever borrow from Zen or Tibetan Buddhist thought, or do you stick strictly to Theravadan thought? I don't even stick strictly to Theravadan thought either, DD. My main focus for study, practice, and teaching is the early texts, the suttas. Theravada is much wider than even that. So that is really my main focus. I don't study Zen or Tibetan or anything like that at all. I'm open to, like, every once in a while, if I talk to a Mahayana monastic, I might, you never know what you might hear, and that might be interesting. There's very, very few examples of my teachings using something from Mahayana. Probably the most prominent one is from a really unlikely source. You would not think that I would use this source. Because it's Crazy Wisdom, Trungpa Rinpoche, who's one of the most infamous Tibetan Shambhala teachers. There's a reason why it's called Crazy Wisdom. But anyway, he coined a term which I think is spot on. I think this is absolutely spot on. I think the Buddha talks about this in the suttas intrinsically, not explicitly. There's no like sutta where the Buddha explains this word for word, but intrinsically, the suttas deep enough, you know the truth of this term, and the term is called idiot compassion. And this is a kind of diluted compassion without wisdom, without true understanding. Right? A supposed compassion that can cause as much or more harm than good. And as somebody who's seen this in his own life, both privately and from my career, I think idiot compassion is a spot-on term, and I use it. Because I think that in Western circles, there's a kind of a misunderstanding of compassion in Buddhism, but also an over-exaggerated focus on compassion in Buddhism. And I think, yes, in the Mahayana, there is probably more of a focus on compassion specifically, but that also means that they have a more refined understanding in terms of their teaching of it. That's where you get idiot compassion. That's where you get the Tibetan teaching of like compassion is like a wing with two birds, right? Just like as a bird needs two wings to fly, so too does compassion need wisdom. Right? So this, in my opinion, again, the Buddha doesn't say two birds to fly, compassion needs wisdom in the suttas. But if you read the suttas and you understand them deeply enough, this is spot on with sutta teaching. Right? This is not out there or different. This is exact. Right? Because basically the Buddha says that if we have some kind of strong state, we don't really know what's true. It's like we're trying to see ourselves in the mirror or in a pool of water, and we can't see our reflection. Right? So this concept of, this being in an emotional or a strong negative state, a strong craving state, these states you can't see clearly. So this is why wisdom and mindfulness is so important with whatever we do. But this is pretty much like the only things from Mahayana that I use. Um, Again, I'm open on the random thing. Maybe I meet somebody, or maybe I come across a concept, and I say, okay, that sounds interesting. But I don't spend any time in my day studying these doctrines. All right, let's read sutta. Majjhima Nikaya number 35. The shorter discourse with Saccaka or Saccaka. So I have heard, at one time the Buddha was staying near Vesali at the Great Wood in the hall with the peaked roof. Now at that time Saccaka, the son of Jain parents, was staying in Vesali. He was a controversialist who pretended to be astute and was deemed holy by many people. This Pali word here, Nigantaputto, son of, thank you. Niganta is the Pali sutta term for the Jains. Putto is son, right? Niganta Putto, son of Jains. Who pretended to be astute and was deemed holy by many people. He was telling a crowd in Vesali, I don't see any ascetic or Brahmin who would not shake and rock and tremble, sweating from their armpits, were I to take them on in a debate, not a leader of an order or a community, or the tutor of a community, or not even one who claims to be a perfected one, a fully awakened Buddha. This guy is roaring his lion's roar. Unfortunately, it's a diluted lion's roar. It's not the type of lion's roar the Buddha says to roar in the suttas. This guy's roaring his diluted roar. All right. Even an insentient post would shake, rock, and tremble were I to take it on in a debate. How much more than a human being? Then the Venerable Asadji robed up in the morning, and taking his bowl and robe, entered Vesali for alms. At Saccaka, as Saccaka was going for a walk, he saw Asadji coming off in the distance. He approached him and exchanged greetings with him. When the greetings and polite conversations were over, Saccaka stood to one side and said to Asadji, Worthy Asadji, how does the ascetic Gotama guide his disciples, and on what topics does instructions to his disciples generally proceed? Aggivesana, this is how the ascetic Gotama. So this is the person's name before he's just called son of the Nigantas. And you see this in the suttas. If you see somebody's name with Puto at the end, it's basically not their like surname. It's just like they're known as son of such and such, right? And so this person is directly, Asadji is directly talking to them by name. Aggivesana, this is how the ascetic Gotama guides his disciples, and his instructions to disciples generally proceed along these topics. Form, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness are impermanent. Form, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness are not self. All conditions are impermanent. All things are not self. This is how the ascetic Gotama guides his disciples, and how instructions to his disciples generally proceeds. This is very similar to what we were discussing this morning during morning monastery experience as we go through the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. And now Aggivesana responds. It's sad to hear, worthy Asaji, that the ascetic Gotama has such a doctrine. Hopefully sometime or other I'll get to meet the worthy Gotama and we can have a discussion. And hopefully I can dissuade him from this harmful misconception. The guts on this guy, huh? Now at that time, around 500 Lichavis were sitting together at the town hall on some business. Then Saccaka went up to them and said, "Come forth, good Lichavis, come forth. Today I am going to have a discussion with the ascetic Gotama." If he stands by the position stated to me by one of his well-known disciples, a mendicant named Asaji, I'll take him on a debate and drag him to and fro and round about like a strong man would grab a fleecy sheep and drag it to and fro and round about. Taking him on in debate, I'll drag him to and fro and round about like a strong brewer's worker would toss a large brewer's sieve into a deep lake, grab it by the corners and drag it to and fro and round about. Taking him on in debate, I'll shake him down and about and give him a beating like a strong brewer's mixer would grab a strainer by the corners and shake it down and about and give it a beating. I'll play a game of hemp washing with the ascetic Gotama, like a 60-year-old elephant would plunge into a deep lotus pond and play a game of hemp washing. Come forth, good Lichavis, come forth. Today I am going to have a discussion with the ascetic Gotamas. At that, some of the Lichavis said, "How can the ascetic Gotama refute Saccaka's doctrine when it is Saccaka who will refute Gotama's doctrine?" But some of the Lichavis said, "Who is Saccaka to refute the Buddha's doctrine when it is the Buddha who will refute Saccaka's doctrine?" This is like a fight night. Right? It's like you're like, "Oh, who's gonna win?" You know, like people, getting geared up for the fight. Then Saccaka, escorted by the 500 Lichavis, went to the hall with the peaked roof in the great wood. At that time, several mendicants were walking mindfully in the open air. Then Saccaka went up to them and said, "Good fellows, where is the worthy Gotama at present? For we want to see him." One thing is to be noted here. Saccaka is using respectful terms, right? Bo. He's not like disrespecting the Buddha per se. Right? He's just basically thinking that he's going to dispute his doctrine. Agivesana, the Buddha has plunged deep into the great wood and is sitting at the root of a tree for the day's meditation. Then Saccaka, together with a large group of Lichavis, went to see the Buddha in the great wood and exchanged greetings with him. When the greetings and polite conversation were over, he sat down to one side. Before sitting down to one side, some Lichavis bowed, some exchanged greetings and polite conversation, some held up their joined palms toward the Buddha, some announced their name and clan, while some kept silent. And this is a very stock phrase. This is not in every sutta, but this is in a good number of suttas when there's a large group of people. And this is explaining the different ways that and the different levels of respect that different people are giving the Buddha. Then Saccaka went to the Buddha, said to the Buddha, "I'd like to ask the worthy Gotama about a certain point, if you take the time to answer." Again, he's being respectful, right? It's not that he's saying, "Oh, Buddha's a fraud," and all these kind of things. He's just basically he has, how shall I put it? He has a exaggerated and diluted confidence in his own doctrine and abilities. I think that's the way to put it. All right. "Ask what you wish," Agivesana, the Buddha says. How does the worthy Gautama guide his disciples, and on what topics does instruction to his disciples generally proceed? Buddha responds, this is how I guide my disciples, and my instructions to the disciples usually proceed along these topics. Form, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness are impermanent. Form, feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness are not self. All conditions are impermanent. All things are not self. This is how I guide my disciples and how instructions to my disciples generally proceeds. So he responds, a simile strikes me, worthy Gautama. Then speak as you feel inspired, said the Buddha. This is something you more see in the suttas with the famous Buddhist monk poet. Why am I blanking out on his name? Where it's like he will be there with the Buddha and he says, Lord Buddha, a inspiring verse has come, and the Buddha says, speak as you are inspired. I'm sure the name will come to me as I move along. But so now this Buddha says, speak as you're inspired, and Agivesana responds, Vangisa? I think it's Vangisa, the Buddhist poet. Anyway, might not be 100% on that. But so Agivesana responds, all the plants and seeds that achieve growth, increase, and maturity do so depending on the earth, grounded on the earth. All the hard work that gets done depends on the earth and is grounded on the earth. In the same way, an individual person's self is form. Established on form, they brim with merit and wickedness. An individual person's self is feeling, perception, choices, and consciousness. Established on consciousness, they brim with merit and wickedness. So this is, look at the Pali here. That's a rupatayang. An individual person has form as oneself. So this is essentially saying that, so Agivesana here is giving the typical Brahmanic doctrine. Remember, Buddha teaches anatta. The Brahmins teach atta, or atman in the Sanskrit. Anatta is the negation of atta. So the Agivesana is essentially describing the traditional Brahmanic understanding here. That the five aggregates are self. Agivesana, are you not saying this? Form is myself, feeling is myself, perception is myself, choices are myself, consciousness is myself. Indeed, worthy Gautama, that is what I'm saying. And this big crowd agrees with me. Right? What you call it? Kind of appealing to the crowd, thinking that helps your your argument. There's all kinds of what they call fallacies in debates, like appealing to authority is even a fallacy, right? These kind of things. Trying to use all of these external things to add weight to the point that he's trying to make, but that really don't have merit to the point itself. So, indeed, worthy Gautama, that is what I'm saying, and this big crowd agrees with me. And here the Buddhist responds, what has this big crowd to do with you? Please just, unpack. This is interesting. That's an interesting, what is the Pali that Bhante Sujato uses for unpack? I don't know. Anyway, I think Bhante Sujato is probably just using a general term, not exactly a direct translation there. But so then, worthy Gotama, what I'm saying is this: form is myself, feeling is myself, perception is myself, choices are myself, consciousness is myself. Well then, Agivesana, I'll ask you about this in return, and you can answer as you like. What do you think, Agivesana? Consider an anointed aristocratic king such as Pasenadi of Kosala or Ajatasattu of Magadha. This is a later sutta, not in terms of like later, like past the Buddha's death, but Bimbisara was the father of Ajatasattu, who was killed by King Ajatasattu. So Buddha is probably fairly old at this point. Of Magadha, son of Princess Videha. Would they have the power in their own realm to execute those who have incurred execution, fine those who have incurred fines, or banish those who have incurred banishment? And so Agivesana says, an anointed king would have such power, worthy Gotama. Even federations, so federations, not, they're talking about like republics, not monarchies. Basically, a state ruled by a council or some other group that's not a monarch. Even federations such as the Vajjis and the Mallas, and the 16, at the time of the Buddha, there were, in northern India, there were 16 Mahaprajapatas. And these are great great cultures, great states, whatever. Some were kingdoms, some were republics, etc. A wide variety of different governance among these 16. Even federations have such power in their own realm. So, of course, an anointed king such as Pasenadi or Ajatasattu would wield such power as is their right. What do you think, Agivesana? When you say form is myself, do you have power over form to say, may my form be like this, may my form not be like that? Those of you who've been attending Morning Monastery Experience in the morning, as we've been going through the Anatalakkhana Sutta, this is the Buddha's first argument. The Buddha is saying here, and this is actually very smart, the Buddha is saying, would a king have the power to do this in their land? And Agivesana says, yes. Now the Buddha is saying, well, are you king over form? Right? This is very, very smart, very astute of the Buddha to use this. When you say form is myself, do you have power over that form to say, may my form be like this, may my form not be like that? When he said this, Saccaka kept silent because he kind of knew if whatever he said, he might be hurting his argument. So he has nothing to say, or he doesn't want to admit that he's wrong. The Buddha asked the question a second time. Hello, Amy. Amy Nichols. This is a name I'm not familiar with per se. Have I met you before, Amy, or is this your first time with us? The Buddha asked the question a second time, but Saccaka kept silent. The Buddha asked, so the Buddha said to Saccaka, answer now, Agivesana. Now is not the time for silence. If someone fails to answer a legitimate question when asked 3 times by the Buddha, their head explodes into 7 pieces there and then. Now at that time the spirit Vajrapani, taking up a burning iron thunderbolt, blazing and glowing, stood in the air above Saccaka, thinking, if this Saccaka doesn't answer when asked a 3rd time, I'll blow his head into 7 pieces there and then. And both the Buddha and Saccaka could see Vajrapani. So Vajrapani showed himself to Saccaka. Or perhaps the Buddha did, but most likely Vajrapani showed himself as a kind of threat, like, to back up what the Buddha's saying, basically. Oh, just so that you believe the Buddha, here you go. Oh, we met at Empty Cloud a couple years ago. All right. Oh, welcome. Good to have you with us. Saccaka was terrified, shocked, and awestruck, looking to the Buddha for shelter, asylum, and refuge. He said, "Ask me, worthy Gautama, I will answer." What do you think, Agavesana, when you say form is myself, do you have power over that form to say, may my form be like this, may it not be like that? No, worthy Gautama. Think about it, Agavesana. You should think before answering. What you said before and what you said after don't match up. What do you think, Agavesana? When you say feeling is myself, do you have power over that feeling to say, may my feeling be like this, may it not be like that? No, worthy Gautama. Think about it, Agavesana. You should think before answering. What you said before and what you said after don't match up. Like, this is, in modern terms, we would say that Buddha has done the mic drop moment. Right? Buddha dropped the mic, and Agavesana has nothing to say. Right? The Buddha, Agavesana already knows that he's on the back end at this point. What do you think, Agavesana? When you say perception is myself, do you have power over that perception to say, may my perception be like this, may it not be like that? No, worthy Gautama. Think about it, Agavesana. You should think before answering. What you said before and what you said after don't match up. What do you think, Agavesana? When you say choices are myself, do you have power over those choices to say, may my choices be like this, may they not be like that? No, worthy Gautama. Think about it, Agavesana. You should think before answering. What you said before and what you said after don't match up. What do you think, Agavesana, when you say consciousness is myself? Do you have power over that consciousness to say, may my consciousness be like this, may it not be like that? No, worthy Gautama. Think about it, Agavesana. You should think before answering. What you said before and what you said after don't match up. What do you think, Agavesana? Is form permanent or impermanent? And just this morning during MME, we started this. This is the second line of argument in the Anatalakkhana Sutta. Right? The Buddha has shown Agavesana, and Agavesana has agreed that he has no mastery over these things. And now the Buddha is moving on to the second level of argument. What do you think, Agavesana? Is form permanent or impermanent? Impermanent. But if it's impermanent, is it suffering or happiness? Suffering. But if it's impermanent, suffering, and perishable, meaning that it is subject to change, it's called viparinama. Viparinama is the rising and falling of things. Is it fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, I am this is not myself, or this is myself. And so, Agavesana, rightly says, no, worthy Gautama. It's not right. It is not fit to be regarded as me, mine, myself. What do you think, Agavesana? Is feeling, perception, choices, consciousness permanent or impermanent? Impermanent. But if it's impermanent, is it suffering or happiness? Suffering. But if it's impermanent, suffering, and perishable, is it fit to be regarded thus? This is mine, I am this is myself. No, worthy Gotama. What do you think, Agivesana? Consider someone who resorts, draws near, and clings to suffering, regards it as thus, this is mine, I am this is myself. Would they be able to completely understand suffering themselves, or live having wiped out suffering? How could they? No, worthy Gotama. What do you think, Agivesana? That being so, aren't you someone who resorts, draws near, and clings to suffering, regarding it thus? This is mine. I am this is myself. And so Agivesana, is honest here. How could I not? Yes, worthy Gotama. Right? Suppose, Agivesana, there was a person in need of heartwood, wandering in search of heartwood. They'd take a sharp axe and enter a forest. There they'd see a big banana trunk, straight and young and grown unskewed. They'd cut it down at the base, cut off the top, and unroll the coiled sheaths. But they wouldn't even find sapwood, let alone heartwood. In the same way, when pursued, pressed, and grilled by me on your own doctrine, you turn out to be vacuous, hollow, and mistaken. But it was you who stated before the assembly of the Vesali. Now, the Buddha, I wonder, knew this. Maybe he was able to read mind, or he was able to, maybe the Deva told him, who knows? But he knows what Saccaka was saying before. I don't see any ascetic or Brahmin who would not shake and rock and tremble, sweating from the armpits, were I to take them on a debate, not a leader of an order or community, or the tutor of a community, and not even one who claims to be a perfected one, a fully awakened Buddha. Even an insentient post would shake and rock and tremble were I to take it on in debate. How much more than a human being? But, Agivesana, sweat is pouring from your forehead. It's soaked through your robe and drips on the ground, while I now have no sweat on my body. So the Buddha reveals his golden body to the assembly. When this was said, Saccaka sat silent, dismayed, shoulders drooping, downcast, depressed, with nothing to say. Knowing this, the Lichavi Dhammapalooza said to the Buddha, a simile strikes me, Blessed One. Then speak as you feel inspired, said the Buddha. Suppose there was a lotus pond not far from a town or a village, and a crab lived there. Then several boys or girls would leave the town or village and go to the pond, where they'd pull out the crab and put it on solid ground. Whenever the crab extended a claw, those boys or girls would snap, crack, and break it off with a stick or a stone. And when the crab's claws had all been snapped, cracked, and broken off, it wouldn't be able to return down into the lotus pond. In the same way, the Buddha has snapped, cracked, and broken off all of Saccaka's twists, ducks, and dodges. Now he can't get near the Buddha again, looking for a debate. But Saccaka said to him, hold on, Dhammapalooza. Hold on. I wasn't talking with you. I was talking with the worthy Gotama. Worthy Gotama, leave aside that statement I made, as did various ascetics and other ascetics and Brahmins. It was like just a bit of nonsense. How do you define a disciple of worthy Gotama who follows the instructions and responds to advice, who has gone beyond doubt, who got rid of indecision, gained assurance, and is independent of others in the teacher's instructions? It's when one of my disciples truly sees any kind of form at all, past, future, or present, internal or external, solid or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, and this is the end of the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta. All form, with right understanding, this is not mine, I am not this is not myself. They truly see any kind of feeling, perception, choices, consciousness at all, past, future, present, internal, external, solid or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, all consciousness with right understanding. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. That's how to define one of my disciples who follows the instructions or responds to advice, who has gone beyond doubt. So this means somebody who's at least a stream enter, got rid of indecision, gained assurance, and is independent of others in the teacher's instructions. But how do you define a mendicant who is a perfected one, with defilements ended, who has completed the spiritual journey, done what had to be done, laid down the burden, achieved their heart's goal, utterly ended the fetter of continued existence, and is rightly freed through enlightenment? It's when a mendicant truly sees any kind of form at all, past, future, or present, internal or external, solid or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, all form with right understanding. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. And having seen this with right understanding, they are freed by not grasping. They truly see any kind of feeling, perception, choices, consciousness at all, past, future, present, internal or external, solid or subtle, inferior or superior, far or near, all consciousness with right understanding. This is not mine, I am not this is not myself. And having seen this with right understanding, they're freed by not grasping. I'm just going to scroll up here and double check. Internal, external, solid, subtle. Okay, I just wanted to double check if there was difference in the wording between a stream enter and an arahant. That's all. Okay, where was I? Uh-oh, did I lose? That's how to define a mendicant who is perfected with defilements ended, who has completed the spiritual journey, done what had to be done, laid down the burden, achieved their heart's goal, utterly ended the fetter of continued existence, and is rightly freed through enlightenment. A mendicant whose mind is freed like this has three unsurpassable qualities: unsurpassable seeing, practice, and freedom. They honor, respect, esteem, and venerate only the realized one. The Blessed One is awakened, tamed, serene, crossed over, and quenched. And he teaches Dhamma for the awakening, self-control, serenity, crossing over, and extinguishment. When he had spoken, Saccaka said to him, "Worthy Gautama, it was rude and impudent of me to imagine I could attack you in debate. For a person might find safety after attacking a running elephant." So a running animal in general is just considered to be very dangerous. They're kind of like out of their mind. Like you can't treat a running animal. So this would be like a male who's in heat, right? You can't treat a male animal who's in heat as a normal animal. You're much likely to get hurt than when they're not in the running, the mating season. So now think about that for like a deer. Now we're talking about an elephant. Sorry, a person might find safety after attacking a running elephant, but not after attacking the worthy Gautama. That's a great line. A person might find safety after attacking a blazing mass of fire, but not after attacking the worthy Gautama. They might find safety after attacking a poisonous viper, but not after attacking the worthy Gautama. It was rude, impudent of me to imagine I could attack you in debate. Would the worthy Gautama, together with the mendicant Sangha, please accept tomorrow's meal from me? The Buddha consented with silence. Then, knowing that the Buddha had consented, Saccaka addressed the Lichavis. Listen, gentlemen, I have invited the ascetic Gautama together with the Sangha of mendicants for tomorrow's meal. You may all bring me what you think is suitable. Then, when the night is past, those Lichavis presented Saccaka with an offering of 500 servings of food. And Saccaka had delicious, fresh, and cooked foods prepared in his own park. Then he had the Buddha informed of the time, saying, "It's time, worthy Gautama, the meal is ready." Then the Buddha robed up in the morning and, taking his bowl and robe, went to Saccaka's park, where he sat on the seat spread out, together with the Sangha of mendicants. Then Saccaka served and satisfied the mendicant Sangha, headed by the Buddha with his own hands, with delicious, fresh, and cooked foods. When the Buddha had eaten and washed his hand and bowl, Saccaka took the low seat and sat to one side. Then Saccaka said to the Buddha, "Worthy Gautama, may the merit and the growth of merit in this gift be for the happiness of the donors. Agivesana, whatever comes from giving to a recipient of a religious donation, such as yourself, who is not freed of greed, hatred, and delusion, will accrue to the donors. Whatever comes from giving to a recipient of a religious donation, such as myself, who is freed of greed and hatred and delusion, will accrue to you." All right. So it's interesting because, yes, the Saccaka was definitely braggadocious. He was definitely confident of his views, but from the beginning he was respectful. And he was a little hesitant, but eventually he did come around and realize he was wrong. And he made amends by asking the Buddha to a meal like that. So Venerable Saccaka, there are people in the suttas that do way worse than Saccaka. So Saccaka's good people. He was a little arrogant in the beginning, but he made amends for it at the end. So, all right. Boy, we're at the end, aren't we? So I think that is good enough for tonight. So let's share merit and then close out, and we'll call it a night. So for those of you who may be on now or maybe will be seeing later, if this is your first time joining us, then you can find out more about myself and the organization Magga, which is a 501c3 organization in Colorado that will hopefully eventually be building a forest monastery and retreat center. Then you can go to the website listed on the screen, maggasekha.org, maggasekha.org. So for those of you who weren't here in the beginning, Magga had its first board meeting on this past Saturday. And just today, we got the first possible opportunity of a place for me to stay in Colorado. I've emailed the people, and we're going to see if it's suitable and feasible and all that. But we are in process, and anybody who would like to help us do this searching or see any opportunities that might come up and you pass it along would be greatly appreciated. The more eyes we have of people looking for places for me to have Magga Vihara, the first iteration at least, then that will be very helpful. All right. So let's do sharing of merits. Dukkha patta chana dukkha, bhaya patta chana bhaya, sokha patta chana sokha, hontu sabbe pipanino, etavata cha mehi sampatang punya sampatang, sabbe deva anumodantu sapa sampati siddhya, akasata cha bhumata, deva naga mahidika, punyang tang anumoditva, charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours that we've thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this dispensation, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends, Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy and at ease, practice well and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again, which could be tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern for morning monastery experience, or could be Saturday for insight timer session, Sunday for sutta reading on the Discord, or next Monday for another Dhammapalooza if I am alive, but that long from now. We also have coming up on the weekend of April 10, 11, 12, we have Metta. I'm doing a Metta Zoom retreat for the weekend. So you can go on the website and you might have to scroll down a little bit. You'll see the notification for that and the link. So join me for a Metta retreat in a couple weeks. So, all right, friends, have a good week.